That's around 5,000 kilometers in altitude. You see, although this is already July, it's a summer, but you could see I'm really wearing a lot of layers of my clothes, and also this morning still snowed. So this is quite challenging environment and climate. But we talk about the Tibetan, the antelope also choosing this place because they believe this is quite the ideal place for them to give birth. So in order to get a better understanding about the Tibetan, the antelope, and we have invited Mr. Yang with us so we could get more information. Hello, I'm from the Xinjiang Economic and Geological Research Institute. So Professor Yang, and you and your team had conducted the many times of the research and investigation. So we talk about what's the research purpose you're looking at, and also what's the work with the Tibetan antelopes. We talk about Tibetan antelope is also the highest level of protected animals in China, and China spent a lot of efforts in protecting the animals. And also we talk about this place specifically. That's the National Natural Reserve. That's also a very important place because we talk about that. The antelope from the Altun Shan and also from the other places in Xizang in Tibetan. Other places also actually you could find a lot of different antelope from different places gathering here. So our work is also to put a very close eye on the birth giving this season. This year, so we could really calculate whether the overall is that a healthy number in terms of the number of the newborn babies, and we talk about that rate. Very important for us to understand the whole health of the group of the antelopes. And I see you and your group actually bring a lot of the equipment with you. So you could see it here, this is one of the most important, and that's the 8 to 10 times the telescope, and we also have that the 20 to 60 times that telescope. This is the most used the equipment, so help us to put a very close eye, to zoom in, to look at that's the group of the antelopes. We talk about that if we find the objectives, that's our Tibetan antelope. So we will first switch to these little ones to the larger ones, so that help us to get a longer view. So that's around 2,000 kilometers away. So we talk about right now, this is the peak season for the Tibetan antelope giving birth. And also in these days, we also put a very close eye and also shoot a video. So you could see this is what we observed. So you could see, yes, you could see the little ones coming out. And we talk about, because you could see here, we talk about this giving birth. And so that's one of the important, and also we talk about right now is also the weakness time. So you could see that the female antelope right now is not live with a whole bigger group, because we talk about she wants to be alone and to be quiet and also focus on one thing, which is to give birth. We talk about this is not an easy job, right? This is really a physical energy consumed. So talk about the overall period. So the duration, you could see this is just like 5, maximum 15 minutes. So this is the quick one, but we also, that's a very difficult situation. Sometimes it's 1 hour to 2 hours. We talk about this, the animals quite get used to this high plateau environment. So this is quite a very nice, or we talk about they adapt to this kind of environment. So we look at some the plateaus, they're standing while giving birth, but some is laying down. So for the female antelope, that they first to laying down, so they talk about they wait to that exact moment, But we also talk about someone standing. So some antelopes are standing while giving birth because that's really caught them in surprise. They're not really well prepared or well aware the little ones coming out. But when they realize that, they will also to lie down. This time when we went here, we could see that a group of the female antelope already gathered here. And right now we're looking at the overall environment according to our analysis and assessment. Right now the overall environment is very favorable. And also we could talk about right now we could see that in total we could expect 30,000. But we will not talk about that 30,000. The antelopes, they all come here for giving birth. We talk about that the female antelope, they just together with the whole big group to arrive here. So the mitigation, we talk about as generation by generation. So the previous generation led the next generation to this place to let them know this is a place when you the time to give birth and come here. So we talk about, say, a younger female antelope. They're not really this time to give birth. They're still quite young, not the time yet. But the older generations will also bring them here. So you could see this is quite a 100% a female antelope. We'll talk about the male ones also could accompany them for a certain part of the journey in terms of mitigation. But we talk about during the birth-giving period, the female and the male, the antelope, they're quite separated. So you could see right now, only the female Tibetan antelope, they are the ones finally arrived here. So you've been here for already 1 week, and for us as well. So we talk about what we observe is a very stunning picture. Let's look at the footage. So we talk about that the groups of antelope, they overcame that 5,300 in altitude. So we talk about in our imagination, Tibetan antelopes not really good at climbing high mountains. So for this kind of antelope, we talk about when time comes, they start to mitigation. No matter how harsh the environment is, they are very determined. They only traveled to arrive their destination. This is one and the only goal for them. So for that's around the 2.2 million years ago. And we already found that in history that the fossil of the Tibetan antelope. So we talk about that they already in their DNA get used to this kind of mitigation. We talk about right now this is around 5,000 meters high altitude. There's also there's a lot of high mountains, but we talk about it's in their DNA. It is that they overcome that they climb over the mountains to arrive to this destination for mitigation, for giving birth purpose. And we talk about, although we talk about it's really high altitude, but still you're looking at here, it's not really a steep cliff. That's a no-go for the antelopes. But we talk about here, we still talk about it's very high altitude, but all in all, it's still plain plateau terrain. So for our observation is we talk about they had their fixed routes in terms of mitigation, right? Do you think is it possible that because of the human interference, they could change their route of mitigation? So talk about that mitigation. So during my research and also based on the previous literature and also the research based on the previous that the people in working this regard, we talk about this is actually the Qinghai Plateau, the Qinghai, the antelopes actually they also went to a western area and for the mitigation, and for the Tibetan antelopes. they mitigate to north part for birth-giving purpose. And also we talk about the Tibetan antelopes. They also go north for mitigation, for birth-giving purpose, and to the quite the areas between Tibetan and Xinjiang, the whole area. So we talk about they have their roots. So if we look at the whole map, actually, you could really talk about that they move more or less to the northern part for birth-giving. But we talk about, yes, human activities will impact their roots, but they will also make a turn, so make a little bit around in order to get a distance between the human interference or activities, but finally they will arrive their fixed destination for mitigation. So any interesting stories or anything actually you could provide us that for the Tibetan antelopes, they do have their fixed routes to arrive their fixed destination. So we did a research in the Xizang in Tibet. So we look at the Qinghai Xizang plateau, and when that's a railway train under construction, and the route actually for the antelopes was impacted. So we found that situation and we clear a route for the Tibetan antelopes, so that the Tibetan antelopes they traveled actually through their original route. So we talk about when we build up the railway, actually we block the route, and we found that situation. We clean that route, we open the channel for the Tibetan antelopes, so they back again to travel to their original, the fixed route. So why they choose this kind of a really open plateau with no human being? So we talk about this is more or less the wild animals. We talk about that the human beings sometimes they think it's the interference, or sometimes it's maybe a threat to their life. So for the Tibetan antelopes, they also would like to choose this quiet, rarely no human being presence place, and also quite a high altitude. So we talk about a high altitude, this kind of plateau terrain is also get rid of their enemies. Not just human being we talk about is also this is kind of quite weak moment for the antelopes. So they also actually really to choose a place for them that's quite a safe haven for them. So they also actually very important thing to choose this kind of terrain is they would like to stay away from their natural enemies. So in these days we also got some footage like the wolves, and that's the natural enemies to the antelope. And we talk about today actually also alongside the route, the journey of the mitigation. So we talk about maybe the wolf could eat up the newborn baby. So what do you think in this kind of ecosystem, or you talk about this kind of situation that the survival of the fittest? So actually we also observe that one thing is you could see that the animals also we talk about the vulture, actually the bears as well. They also come here for the female antelopes and also the small newly born and the baby antelopes. So we talk about it's normal. That's the sometimes they give birth, but it's a stillbirth, the dead fetus. So we talk about that for the younger ones or for the wild animals, and they should quickly to get the breeding from their moms and also to get used to adapt to the environment. So we talk about the little baby actually dies from the very beginning, from the very first day of their life. But we talk about that's normal. We talk about this is not just the time for the antelope to give birth, but we also talk about for wolves, for the bears, and for vultures. It's also time for these kind of animals also give birth to breed their next generation. So we talk about that. This is a time that for this kind of carnivore animals also look for food. So maybe we lose some young the antelope, but we talk about this is also in line with the law of nature, and we talk about finally that the survived ones that's the most that is the adapted one. We talk about that's the fittest one. So maybe we talk about in Altun Shan, the Tibetan antelopes are not the only host here. So we talk about there are so many different kinds of animals also called the Altun Shan home. So we talk about the biodiversity here. So Altun Shan, that's also part of the Xinjiang, the Qinghai Xizang the plateau. We talk about that. Sometimes you could see that Tibetan antelopes, the Tibetan other animals, actually the animals that are living in this plateau ecosystem. So we talk about that the Tibetan antelopes. So we talk about nearly 100% of the Tibetan antelopes actually you could find in here in the plateau in China. But we talk about for other animals, brown bears and the wolves and also the foxes and also the plateau rabbits. We talk about you could see that the whole that the producers, consumers, and the carnivorous animals. And also we talk about the vegetarian, that's the herbivore, the herbivore animals. You could see actually this is a whole food chain built up here in this ecosystem. So food producer and to the consumers, and consumers that include herbivore and carnivore animals. So in this series we found that this is actually different animals belong to these different categories alongside that food chain. That is how their ecosystem operate. But actually this is quite unique and also quite surprised. So we talk about animals living here in the Altun Shan. For plants compared to low altitude, what's the difference? So we talk about for the plants that's above 4,000 meters. So you could see the not really the really tall plants. So we talk about a lot of really that the plants you always can find in the desert places. We talk about. So maybe we take this for example. So you could see that this is really, really short in terms of the length. And also we talk about this is also the really the a shorter size. We talk about that because we are wearing really that coats that the a down jacket here. We talk about the wind here really strong, and if it's too tall, it's too long, then this heavy wind will actually cut them through, right? So for this kind of that height is also got used to that overall environment, especially the wind. And for the grass here, that's also with a high protein. So for the antelope and also the other herbivore animals, actually these are the food for them. So what exactly the length? So normally that's around the 3 centimeters. Normally that's no more than 2 centimeters. So that's very, very close to the ground. So we talk about this is a really sound ecosystem built up here in Altun Shan. What kind of measures we could take to protect this kind of environment? The best way to protect is stay them away. So stay away from them. We talk about that. This is very important. We talk about the best way is let them quietly stay here. And besides that, the scientific research we're carrying out, but we talk about this is really the no man's land that's preserved like this. We talk about that's really, really control that limited human activities interference. We talk about actually still that this is quite fragile in terms of plateau ecosystem and animals. So the best way to protect is to leave them away. So what is, let's say, the most impressive thing during your research life? So I always actually shocked by the animals and environment. We talk about that this is really the vast place. I believe if you're standing here, you could really enjoy that magnificent landscape. We talk about the high mountains and also rivers, and also in the evening, that's also the sky of stars. And also could see that nearly 30,000 Tibetan antelopes. I believe that first we have really did a good job to build up that natural reserves. Otherwise, we could not really see this number of the Tibetan antelopes coming here for birth giving. It's challenging, yes, indeed. You look at it in July, it's really a hot summer, but we still wear that really padded jackets and also the really short of oxygen, and also this is high altitude. We still talk about we have people protected per tree here and to protect that overall environment and the safety of these whole places. We talk about it, we not really see ourselves we're doing a hard job, but compared to the people working in this natural reserve, they are the one working so hard for many, many years. So this is not an easy job for them. This is really a beautiful place. This is really a very sound plateau ecosystem. I believe that's the joint efforts. Thank you very much, Professor Yang. So I also would like to bring you a little bit more about this environment. So this is the Altun Shan Natural Nature Reserve in northwest China's Xinjiang. We have grass, rivers, and mountains, which means this could provide a quite safe environment for antelopes to give birth. This is really high altitude, and for the newly born babies, it's also a good place for them to protect themselves away from the bacteria. And also we talk about that you maybe are viewers quite curious about how we really do the live streaming. And here you could see this is the support of the local telecommunication vehicles. And also we have Mr. Wang here. Hello, from the China Mobile. So one question we talk about for this kind of no-man place. with very few human beings. So we talk about for the equipment as necessary, and also we talk about that the need to have really reliable equipment with you, and also to sometimes we talk about here you need to think about the whole overall environment, especially the very thick layers of clouds. Sometimes that's also not conducive for us to transmit data. And we talk about that right now is also the very, very important time, because right now the reserve welcomes the peak calving season for Tibetan antelopes. So that is why we also bring that the Wi-Fi equipment, 4G signals, and also the other equipment facilities with us to support that the research work. So we could also provide the sufficient the data and signal transmission work. So for this kind of telecommunication support, actually good for us to do live streaming like you are watching now. And also we talk about sometimes it's a very the urgent research data information also can rely on this kind of equipment to make sure that all the data can be transmitted to the other centers for further research. So once again, this is the Altun Shan Natural Nature Reserve, and we talk about this is a primary dedicated to protecting the fragile the plateau ecosystem. Right now, the number of Tibetan antelopes amounted to 65,000, and the number is still growing. We've been here for 1 week already, and we have seen a lot of really heartwarming pictures. And also we talk about also the difficult time for Tibetan antelopes mitigating to this place along the long journey and difficult journey, and wish that antelopes could grow healthy here, and also everything the best for them to give birth to the little ones, and also make sure that there is a little interrupt to this place to provide a quiet environment for Tibetan antelopes and other animals here. Once again, this is Altun Shan National Natural Reserves. Thank you for watching.